poor too. That haircut.
They all sort of got me.
And sir, would you like to buy a paper?
I don't think he can read.
I don't You even wasted all these programs?
Maybe it's best when the solos in front of the courthouse before the trial.
Off we go then.
Jingle bells, Santa smells, your girl's getting old. Don't need no brownies in the back, they're mixing the bathroom bowl.
Brr. It's the coldest day I take Mary. Why, it's so cold, my grandmother's leaves are traveling in plastic bags in bed.
I know. Here we are, out here on the coldest day, trying to collect money to help support the poor. And all everyone is interested in is Mr. Scrooge's trial.
Well, it is a big deal. Mr. Scrooge is very upset. Why even slammed him on our faces this morning? That's very unusual since it changed him a year ago.
That was surprising. His generosity has been outstanding for a year, and then all of a sudden he's a mean old miser once again.
He's blaming it all on free spirits.
Whiskey, bourbon, and gin?
No! The spirits of Christmas past, present, and future.
Oh! They were only trying to help him find his Christmas spirit, that's all.
Well, evidently, they went about it in a way that caused him much pain and suffering.
His heart is going cold and angry. I heard he wants to sue them.
I heard they brought in the Lord who the judge is not care for. He's Jewish.
Do you mean the Pope wears a beanie on his head?
Keeps his scalpel, I suppose.
Oh, I'd love to sit in on this trial and watch. I bet things are going to get very heated.
It'll be a lot warmer than it is out here. Well, I'd like to attend, but I must be fed.
Will there be food in Scrooge's trial?
Yes, humbugger.
We should go, Ellen. It gave us something to talk about for a long time.
Okay, let us hurry and finish up our work so we don't miss a minute. I'm quite sure this is going to get very interesting.
Oh, yes. It'd be so nice to get out of this cold, too.
Indeed, it will. Come on.
Good morning, Your Honor. What's so good about it? It's snowing. It's Christmas Eve. There's joy in the air.
It was a rhetorical question.
Oh. Big trial starts today.
I'm well aware of that fact.
The papers are calling it the trial of the century.
The papers should concern themselves with the news, not sensationalism.
Everyone in the world will be following this trial.
Everybody should find something better to do.
But, Your Honor,
This trial is a waste of time, Mr. Connolly. My time. I do not like to waste my time. And to make matters worse, I must suffer the sickeningly sweet courtroom proceedings of Mr. Rothschild.
the people seem to like him.
The people don't have to tolerate him on a daily basis. Would you please state your full name for the court? Catherine Harrington. Oh, Miss Harrington, may I call you Catherine? Mom, every week.
He's just doing his job.
As should you. As for Mr. Rothschild, I wish he would do his job somewhere else. I find him to be an annoyingly doltish irritant in my courtroom.
I haven't heard who's representing Mr. Scrooge.
He's representing himself.
Why?
Because he's cheap.
All rise. All rise. That's better. The Honorable Chancellor Pearson!
Be seated. Court is now in session. Entered on this 24th day of December, 1844, by Ebenezer Scrooge, a complaint of attempted murder, kidnapping, trespassing, breaking and entering, stalking, slander, theft, pain and suffering, and the intentional infliction of emotional distress against Jacob Marley and the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. How do your clients plead, Mr. Rothschild?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Very well. Opening remarks, Mr. Scrooge.
Bah! Humbug!
That's it. That's your opening.
Well, that's what I think of Mr. Marley and his hooligan friends. Bah! Humbug!
Mr. Scrooge, perhaps if you reconsidered legal representation.
I am capable of representing myself.
Very well. Mr. Rothschild.
Merry Christmas.
Objection!
Mr. Scrooge. You can't legally object to Mr. Rothschild's opening statement.
I find the phrase Merry Christmas objectionable.
As much as you find the phrase Merry Christmas objectionable, inasmuch as I find it ironic that someone of Mr. Rothschild's upbringing would even use such a phrase, you cannot legally object to it during opening remarks. Again, Mr. Scrooge, I urge you to reconsider.
I am perfectly capable of representing myself.
Well, then it should come as no surprise to someone as knowledgeable as yourself regarding courtroom procedures that it is common courtesy to refer to me as Your Honor.
Well, I'm aware of that courtesy.
Sit down, Mr. Scrooge, and not another word from you during Mr. Rothschild's opening remarks. Mr. Rothschild.
Thank you, Your Honor. Happy holidays. This trial is not about attempted murder. It's not about kidnapping, it's not about slander or theft or trespassing. But I agree with Mr. Scrooge on one point. This trial is about pain and suffering. The pain and suffering of a shut-up heart. The pain and suffering of a lost soul. The pain and suffering endured by Mr. Scrooge because he lost his Christmas spirit. 1 year ago this very night, Mr. Scrooge's closest and only friend went to extraordinary measures to heal that pain and suffering. Jacob Marley, along with the spirits of Christmas past, present, and future, came to Mr. Scrooge and challenged him. They challenged him to look beyond the darkness of his cold, shriveled soul, to look beyond his vicious and malicious ways, to look beyond his pain and suffering, and look into the bosom and belly of the miraculous and awe-inspiring spirit of Christmas. And do you know what happened? Do you know what happened when Mr. Scrooge took a good hard look at a life brimming with the spirit of Christmas? Mr. Scrooge found his heart. Mr. Scrooge found his soul. Mr. Scrooge found his joy, his happiness, and his compassion because Mr. Scrooge found the Christmas spirit. We all saw the change in him. How could we not? His soul had new life. His heart laughed, and we all laughed with him. He was merciful, he was charitable, he was a pleasure and a joy to be near. But now, the unthinkable has happened. Mr. Scrooge's heart has grown cold again. Mr. Scrooge's soul is shut up again. Mr. Scrooge's life is merciless, malignant, and malevolent again because Mr. Scrooge has lost his Christmas spirit again. And if that wasn't enough, as if the fall of a man wasn't enough, As if the souring of the wondrous milk of human kindness wasn't enough, Mr. Scrooge now wants to punish those benevolent, selfless souls who brought about this miraculous change in them 1 year ago. My clients didn't murder Mr. Scrooge. They didn't kidnap him, they didn't harass or harm him. What they did do was go to extraordinary measures to heal the pain Mr. Scrooge suffered by helping him find his Christmas spirit. And for that, my client should not be punished. For that, they should be embraced and loved. Thank you.
Mr. Scrooge, you may call your first witness.
No witnesses at this time.
You're joking, right?
No.
Why me? Mr. Rothschild?
I would like to call to the stand Mr. Robert Cratchit.
Mr. Robert Cratchit.
Would you please state your full name for the court?
Robert Cratchit.
Mr. Cratchit. May I call you Robert?
Bugs.
Bob, what is your relationship to Mr. Scrooge?
I'm a clerk at Scrooge and Marley's.
And you work for both Mr. Scrooge and Mr. Marley?
Only Mr. Scrooge.
Why don't you work for Mr. Marley?
Well, Mr. Marley is dead to begin with.
Dead?
Yes, sir.
Was he dead on the night in question?
Yes, sir.
You're positive.
There can be no doubt whatsoever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clerk, the clergyman, the undertaker, and
Go on.
Mr. Scrooge.
Mr. Scrooge signed the register of burial?
Yes, and his name is good for anything he chooses to put his hands on.
Now, on the night in question, did Mr. Scrooge know that Mr. Marley was dead?
How could you not? Mr. Scrooge and you were partners for I don't know how many years. He was his sole friend and his sole mourner.
So, on the night in question, old Marley was dead as a doornail.
Objection! Sustained. Mr. Rothschild, you've made your point. There is no doubt that Marley was dead.
But, Your Honor, this must be distinctly understood, or nothing wonderful can come of the trial we're about to undertake. If we were perfectly convinced that Hamlet's father died before the play began, then there'd be nothing more important than him taking a stroll at night in an easterly wind upon his own rapids than there would be in any other middle-aged gentleman rashly turning out after dark to frighten his son's weak mind.
Thank you for the literary lesson. You've made your point. Move on.
Bob, in your opinion, what kind of man is Mr. Scrooge?
Well, he's thrifty.
Oh, Bob, he's a typist and I'm with the front.
Order!
A squeezing, wrenching, clutching.
Mr. Carter, move her from the courtroom!
Ah! Hard and sharp as flint, from which no steel had ever struck at his violence. Ah, Scrooge, you're a greedy bastard! Greedy bastard!
Get out here another word from anyone else, and I'll have the lot of you arrested on contempt. Mr. Connolly, lock the door. I'll have no more interruptions. Mr. Rothschild.
Wow, Bob! Do you agree with your wife's outburst?
Objection! Sustained. Mr. Rothschild, you shall not encourage contemptible behavior.
Bob, how long have you worked for Mr. Scrooge?
10 years.
In those 10 years, have you and Mr. Scrooge ever had a drink together after work?
No.
Have you ever gone to his house for dinner?
Mr. Scrooge is secretive, self-contained, and solitary as noisy.
Objection!
Establish a character, Your Honor.
You think about it. Overruled.
Bob, I'd like to talk about the night in question, Christmas Eve. Do you remember where you were that day?
Yes, sir, I was at work.
Of all the good days of the year, on Christmas Eve, you were working?
Yes, I had to work the whole day.
Do you remember what the day was like?
Yes. I distinctly remember the city clock striking 3, but it was quite dark already. Candles were flaring in neighboring offices like ruddy smears upon the palpable brown air. It was extremely foggy, and I can remember thinking to myself that to see the fog pouring in, obscuring everything, one might think that nature lived hard by and was brewing on a large scale.
It was quite cold that day, as I recall, wasn't it?
Yes, sir, it was cold, bleak, fighting weather.
But you had the warmth of your office to protect you from the elements, correct?
Not quite.
No, you didn't have a fire blazing inside the successful offices of Scrooge and Marley?
No, sir. It seems that external heat and cold have very little influence on Mr. Scrooge. It seems no wintry wind chills him or warmth warms him.
Surely you had some sort of fire burning.
A very small one.
How small?
One coal.
One coal?
Yes, sir.
One coal hardly constitutes a fire.
Mr. Scrooge's orders.
So, on the coldest day of the year, Mr. Scrooge would only allow you to burn one coal.
That's correct.
Did you ask Mr. Scrooge if you could put more than one coal on the fire?
I did.
And?
He said if I took even one more coal out of the coal box, my services would no longer be needed.
No more questions.
Mr. Scrooge, your witness.
I'm sorry, Mr. Cratchit, did you say you worked Christmas Day?
No, you gave me Christmas Day off, remember?
Ah, that's right. No more questions. At this time,
You may step down, Mr. Cratchit. Mr. Rothschild, your witness.
I would like to call to the witness stand Mr. Frederick Fitzpatrick.
Mr. Frederick Fitzpatrick.
Would you please state your full name for the court?
Frederick Samuel Fitzpatrick.
Mr. Fitzpatrick. May I call you Frederick?
Fred's fine.
Fred, what is your relationship to Mr. Scrooge?
Mr. Scrooge is my uncle.
By birth or by marriage?
By birth, my mother and he were brother and sister.
Is your mother deceased?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Now, on the night in question, did you see your uncle?
I saw him that afternoon.
And where was that?
At his office.
And in what kind of mood was your uncle in when you saw him that afternoon?
His usual mood, grumpy, crotchety, disagreeable.
And did your visit cheer him up?
No, if anything, it made him more disagreeable.
Oh, did you come bearing bad news?
I came to wish him a Merry Christmas and invite him to a Christmas dinner.
And this made him more disagreeable?
My uncle has taken a keen dislike to Christmas.
Any reason why?
He's never said.
Did he accept your invitation?
As usual, he said no.
As usual?
Every Christmas, I invite him to my house, and every Christmas he says no.
Because of his dislike for Christmas?
Or because of his dislike for me.
Fred, have you ever done anything to warrant this behavior?
We've never had a quarrel as far as I can recall.
And yet, you return every Christmas to invite him to dinner, even though you receive the same response each time.
I've always thought of Christmas time as a good time. Kind, forgiving, charitable time. The only time I know in a long calendar of a year when men and women seem by one consent to open their hearts freely and to think of one another as if they truly are fellow passengers to the grave and not just another race of creatures bound on other journeys. So yes, I return every Christmas, because Christmas has done me good and will do me good. So I say, God bless it.
Bravo!
Let me hear another word from you, and you'll keep Christmas by losing your situation.
No more questions, Your Honor.
You are a powerful speaker, sir. I wonder you don't go into Parliament.
No objection, badgering the witness.
Sustained.
It was a compliment.
I didn't like your tone.
Mr. Fitzpatrick, in the past 10 years, how many times have you been to see me?
That's easy. 10.
10 times, you sure?
Yes.
You're positive.
Yes, every Christmas Eve.
Never on New Year's Eve?
No.
Boxing Day?
No.
Guy Fawkes Day?
No.
St. George's Day?
No.
Well, surely on my birthday.
I'm afraid I don't know what it is.
Well, then I guess you're right. 10 years, 10 times, 10 visits. In your diatribe about
Objection.
Sustained.
in your speech about Christmas, You said that Christmas time is the only time of year when men and women open up their hearts to each other. Did you say that?
Yes,
And you believe that?
I do.
And this opening of hearts is what you call the spirit of Christmas?
Yes,
Spirit of caring and generosity?
yes,
Spirit that you believe I do not possess?
yes,
And at Christmas time, do you believe that you possess this spirit?
I do.
More than most men?
More than you, I'm afraid.
Well, then let me ask you this, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Where does your Christmas spirit, your spirit of caring and generosity go the other 364 days of the year?
It doesn't go anywhere. It's always inside me.
But in 10 years, you've only visited me 10 times, each time on Christmas Eve.
Yes, that's because I make those visits in homage to the Christmas spirit.
But you just stated that Christmas spirit is always inside you.
Yes.
Then why don't you visit me any other time of the year? No more questions, Your Honor.
You may step down, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Mr. Rothschild, your witness.
I would like to call to the witness stand Miss Sarah Wainwright.
Miss Sarah Wainwright.
Would you please state your full name for the court?
Sarah Ann Wainwright.
Miss Wainwright. May I call you Sarah?
Oh, God!
Yes, you may.
Sarah, on the night in question, did you see Mr. Scrooge?
I most certainly did.
And where was that?
At his office.
And what business brought you to Mr. Scrooge's office?
Well, at Christmas time, I go door to door to the various businesses in and around the London area, soliciting money for the poor and destitute.
Well, that's rather noble of you.
Objection.
Sustained. Mr. Rothschild, please keep your opinions to yourself.
Thank you.
Sarah, what charitable organization do you work for?
Oh, I don't work for an organization. I do this on my own.
So you've taken it upon yourself to help the poor.
Yes, I have.
What prompted you to undertake this cause?
Well, several Christmases ago, we were having a party at our home, and someone said it was snowing, so we all rushed to the front window to look out. But when we did, there in the street stood a homeless family, just standing there in the snow. And they looked so homeless. You know, cold, hungry, and sad. They kept staring at us, and I couldn't help staring right back. We had some leftover food, so I put on my coat and my hat and my mittens and my new mink muffler, and I brought the food out to them. I wished them a Merry Christmas, and they were so grateful. I felt a warmth inside of me. And at that moment, I realized that Christmas is more than just parties and presents and pretty dresses. Sure, that's a part of it. But it's more than that. So at Christmas time, when want is keenly felt and abundance rejoices, I trod door to door to raise funds to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. I believe everyone is entitled to that on Christmas.
One more outburst like that, and you will all be spending the night in jail. Including you. This is all your fault.
Sarah, how many people benefit from your efforts?
Not nearly enough. Many thousands are in want of common necessaries and hundreds of thousands are in want of common comforts.
Of everyone you solicit, approximately how many give you money?
Nearly everyone. At Christmas time, abundance truly rejoices. Even your people give a little something.
Oh, what can I say? We're givers. Now, on the night in question, how much did Mr. Scrooge give you?
Nothing.
Oh, he wished to remain anonymous?
He wished to be left alone.
Alone?
That was his wish.
So Mr. Scrooge didn't give you any money?
No, he did not.
Did he give you a reason why?
It was Mr. Scrooge's opinion that since he pays taxes for the prisons and the workhouses, that those who are badly off should go there.
Should they?
It is well documented that the establishments to which Mr. Scrooge is referring scarcely furnish Christian cheer or body or mind to the multitude. Frankly, many would rather die than go to the workhouses. And when I told him that, he said,
Yes.
he said said, and I quote, "If they had rather die, they had better do so and decrease the surplus population."
No more questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Scrooge, your witness.
Miss Wainwright, how long have you lived in London?
My entire life, born and raised here.
So you're quite familiar with the city then?
Yes, I am.
How would you describe the weather here?
It's perfect.
Perfect if you're a god. Dogs love it here. It's cold and wet. Mr. Connolly, please refrain from sharing your opinion during questioning. Or the ducks won't be the only ones that are cold and wet.
Mr. Connolly thinks it's cold and wet.
Objection.
Sustained. Mr. Scrooge, Mr. Connolly's long-witted opinions shall not be taken into account.
Very well, I think it's cold and wet and rainy and foggy. What do you think, Miss Wainwright?
Yes, well, I agree we have had our share of that kind of weather.
Our share, more like a monopoly, I'd say. In February, what is the average temperature?
Objection. We're not here to discuss the annual weather report.
Mr. Scrooge, is there a point to this line of questioning?
I'm getting to it.
Get to it quickly then. Overruled.
What is the average temperature in February?
I wouldn't know.
Well, you should know. You've lived here your entire life.
I know generally, I don't know exact figures.
Well, generally will do. In February, does it get below freezing?
Yes, sometimes.
More than half the days?
It depends on the year.
Generally.
Generally, yes, I'd say so.
Have you ever seen it rain in February?
Yes.
Snow?
Yes.
Sleet?
Yes.
Have you ever seen it snow in October?
Yes, I have.
How about March?
Yes.
April?
A few years ago, it snowed on Easter Sunday.
Yeah, it has to be very cold for it to snow, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. October to April, that's 7 months. More than half a year. 7 months of freezing cold weather and 5 months of, well, let's be honest, not so great weather. The taxes I pay each week help provide food and warmth year-round, not just for one day of the year. So in the long run, Miss Wainwright, who does more to help the poor? You or me?
You may step down, Miss Wainwright.
Mr. Rothschild, your witness.
I'm what you call to the stand, Mr. Jacob Marley.
Mr. Scrooge, you were given an opportunity to call your witnesses.
I've changed my mind.
Mr. Scrooge!
Your Honor, if Mr. Scrooge would like to call a witness now, I shall happily yield the floor to him.
Very well. Mr. Jacob Marley. Mr. Jacob Marley. Mr. Marley, can you sit down?
That would be it, no.
Very well. Proceed.
Please tell the court your full name, who you are.
Asked me who I was.
You're rather particular for a shadow.
Objection, badgering the witness.
Sustained, Mr. Scrooge.
Who are you then?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
In life, when did you die?
8 years ago. 8 years ago this very night. Christmas Eve.
Well, it wasn't a very Merry Christmas for you, was it?
Mr. Scrooge!
Mr. Marley, in those 8 years, have we ever seen each other?
We've seen each other twice, but I have seen you many times.
Where did you see me?
As part of my penance, I'm forced to sit invisible beside you many and many a day.
Mr. Marley, that is known as stalking.
Objection.
Overruled.
And the 2 times that you saw me, when was that?
A year ago today.
And where was both times on the same day?
Yes,
Where was the first time?
at your front door,
And do you recall where I was standing?
on your doorstep.
And where were you?
I was in your door knocker.
It's a rather odd place to greet someone, don't you think? I mean, I could see meeting someone at the front door. But the door knocker? Why were you there?
To warn you of my impending visit.
You were in my door knocker to warn me you were going to visit? Well, why not talk to me then? Mr. Molly, I didn't hear your answer. Why not talk to me then?
I don't know.
And do you recall what I did next?
You went inside.
And you remained in the door knocker.
No, I had already left the door knocker.
Where did you go?
I went inside your house.
Without being invited in?
Yes.
That is trespassing, Mr. Molly!
Overruled.
And where did we see each other next?
In your bedchamber.
Again, I don't recall inviting you to my bedchamber.
I came to offer you a chance and hope of escaping my fate.
You entered my bedchamber through a double-locked door, did you not?
A chance and hope of my procuring Ebenezer.
Did you or did you not enter my bedchamber uninvited through a double-locked door?
A chance and hope.
Mr. Marley, answer the question. Did you or did you not enter Mr. Scrooge's bedchamber uninvited through a double-locked door?
I did.
And what exactly was the chance and hope you offered me that night?
A visitation of 3 spirits.
Visitation? I believe your exact words were, "You will be haunted by 3 spirits." Is that correct, Mr. Molly?
Maybe.
Yes!
Yes.
You will be haunted by 3 spirits, not you'll be visited by 3 spirits, but you'll be haunted by 3 spirits. There's a distinct difference between those 2 words, Mr. Molly. The word visit implies someone popping in for spaghetti, while the word haunt conjures up images of horror, terror, and fear. On the night in question, you broke into my bedroom to threaten, terrorize, and haunt me.
It was for your own good.
You admit to it?
It was for your own good, Ebenezer.
If it was for my own good, why did you wait 7 years?
As part of my penance, I'm condemned to travel the world.
And yet you just stated that you have been beside me on many and many a day. Which one is it, Mr. Molly? No more questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Rothschild, your witness.
Mr. Barley, may I call you Jacob?
For the love of God!
Yes, you may.
Jacob, you're fettered. Tell me why.
I wear the chains I forged in life. I made them link by link and yard by yard. I made them of my own free will, and of my own free will I wore them. Is its pattern strange to you, Ebenezer?
Order!
For it is full and heavy and as long as this 8 years ago, Ebenezer. And you've then known it since.
Order!
It is a ponderous chain!
Order! Mr. Marley, if you cannot control yourself, I will have you held on contempt.
I apologize, Your Honor. My client's under a great deal of strain.
He's not the only one.
Okay, it's his penance. Jacob, you said you're serving some sort of penance?
It is required of every man that the spirit within him walk the earth amongst his fellow man and travel far and wide. And if that spirit goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death.
And your spirit never went forth?
In life, my spirit never roamed beyond the narrow limits of our money-changing home. I'm doomed to wander through this world and witness what I cannot share, but might have shared on earth and turn to heaven.
How did this happen, Jacob? You were obviously a good man of business.
Business! Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business.
It must be very painful.
No rest, no sleep, and many weary journeys lie before me.
Despite your overwhelming fatigue and your unfathomable exhaustion, you were able to summon the strength to visit your old friend Ebenezer Scrooge.
I came to offer him a chance and hope of escaping my fate.
Why didn't you come to him earlier?
I didn't fill out the proper papers. They put me on a 7-year waiting list.
They?
The 3 spirits.
There's a 7-year wait for the 3 spirits?
It's nearly impossible to get an appointment.
They're that busy, huh?
Many Ebenezer Scrooges walk the earth in need of their services.
Why don't they just get 3 other spirits?
They're the only ones that do this kind of work.
No more questions, Your Honor.
You may step down, Mr. Marley.
To see me no more. And you, for your own sake, and remember what has passed between us. Remember!
I'd like to call to the stand the ghost of Christmas past.
Mr. Scrooge, you may
Your
not.
Honor, again, I happily yield the floor to Mr. Scrooge.
Very well. The ghost of Christmas past.
Please tell the court who you are.
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, your past.
Are you one of the spirits that was foretold to me by Mr. Marley?
I am.
And I'm not in question, what business brought you to my house?
You alone there.
Did it ever occur to you that a night of unbroken rest would be more conducive to that end?
Your reclamation then.
And that included kidnapping me.
Objection.
Sustained.
I was kidnapped by this spirit.
Your Honor, Mr. Scrooge was not kidnapped.
I was forcibly taken out of my house against my wishes.
Your Honor, look at my client. She's as gentle as a child.
As gentle as a woman's hand, her grasp was not to be resisted.
Order. I will determine at the end of this trial whether Mr. Scrooge did or did not go of his own volition.
Spirit, did you or did you not take me, clad in my dressing gown, cap and slippers, out of my bedroom window and out of my house?
Yes.
Subjecting me, a mere mortal, to the possibility of falling to my death.
With my hand upon your heart, you are more than upheld.
I don't know how things are done in your little netherworld, Spirit, but in this world that is known as kidnapping and endangerment. No more questions.
Mr. Rothschild, your witness.
Ghosts of Christmas past. May I call you past?
Shoot. Just shoot me.
You may.
Past, you said the reason you visited Mr. Scrooge was for his reclamation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Was Mr. Scrooge in need of reclamation?
Yes.
Did you kidnap Mr. Scrooge?
Heavens no.
Objection!
Overruled.
Mr. Scrooge says you did.
Mr. Scrooge is mistaken.
Objection!
Overruled.
She's lying!
Order.
I am not mistaken. I was kidnapped by this apparition.
Mr. Scrooge, order.
Okay, let's say you did kidnap Mr. Scrooge.
But I didn't.
I know.
Why did you say I did?
For the sake of argument.
I'd rather not argue.
I'm just trying to make a point.
Oh, right. Go ahead.
Okay, let's say you went into Mr. Scrooge's room to kidnap him. What did you tie him up with? Rope?
No.
Sheets?
No.
Chains like Mr. Marley's?
No, I did not tie up Mr. Scrooge.
Did you hold his legs and arms so he couldn't move?
No.
Throw him in a sack?
No.
Knock him unconscious?
No.
Did you use some secret invisible unusual ghostly power to immobilize him.
No.
I'm confused.
That's not surprising.
Mr. Scrooge alleges you kidnapped him. How did you force Mr. Scrooge to go with you?
I did not force him. I merely touched his heart.
Oh, something I'm sure Mr. Scrooge hasn't felt in years. Oh, what?
Stay, Mr. Rothschild.
So you got Mr. Scrooge out of his room. What did you ask for ransom? Money?
No.
Better working conditions?
No.
The release of trapped spirits?
No. I sought nothing from him.
Huh, again, I'm confused.
Because you're an idiot.
Mr. Scrooge, you are trying my already limited patience with you. Another outburst like that, and I will throw you in jail until the only way they can remove you from your cell will be to sweep out your ashes.
So, you didn't force Mr. Scrooge out of his room, and you didn't ask for any sort of ransom.
No.
And if you didn't immobilize Mr. Scrooge, what prevented him from escaping?
Nothing.
Objection! Overruled! That ghost is perjurizing herself.
Perhaps you mean perjury.
That's a perjurious poltergeist.
Mr. Scrooge!
She's lying!
I know what the word means, Mr. Scrooge. You were given an opportunity to question this spirit. It is now Mr. Rothschild's turn. Stand up! Now sit down!
Is it my turn?
Yes, it's your turn.
Okay. If Mr. Scrooge, you said Mr. Scrooge was free to leave.
Yes.
At any time.
He needed only to extinguish me with his hat, and he would return to his bedchamber.
That's a powerful hat.
I'm a powerful ghost.
Oh, see, that is just
Mr. Scrooge!
How does the hat work?
It extinguishes my light.
Your light?
The light of one's past.
And that's where you took Mr. Scrooge, is it not, to revisit his past?
Too often we forget our past and who we truly are.
Your Honor, I'd like to present Exhibit A, Mr. Scrooge's past. Okay, first slide, please. Pat, can you tell us what we're looking at here?
Mr. Scrooge was bred in this place. He was a boy here.
And this is where you took him on the night in question.
Yes.
Did Mr. Scrooge recollect the way when you walked along this road?
He could walk it blindfolded.
Strange how we have forgotten it for so many years. Next slide, please. Wow, how far did you walk?
Until a little market town appeared in the distance, with its bridge, its church, and its winding river.
And who are those boys?
Those are Mr. Scrooge's schoolboy friends.
Did Mr. Scrooge see these boys on the night in question?
Yes.
Was he rejoiced by all bounds to see them? Did his cold eye glisten? His heart leap up as they passed? Was he rejoiced to see him that day when he saw him?
His lip trembled, and a tear rolled down his cheek.
It was a pimple.
For the record, what was the boys' names?
I do not know.
Well, the one on the left is Tommy Foster. The one in the red scarf is Francis Riley. And the one throwing the snowball is Michael Thatcher.
Thank you, Mr. Scrooge. Now, where is Mr. Scrooge?
The school is not quite deserted.
So Mr. Scrooge is still in the school?
Yes.
Thank you. No more questions, Your Honor.
You may step down.
Your Honor, I'd like to call to the stand Mrs. Fan Fitzpatrick.
Mrs. Fan Fitzpatrick.
Fan.
Would you please state your full name for the court?
Fan Scrooge Fitzpatrick.
Mrs.
Oh,
Fitzpatrick.
please, call me Fan.
Thank you, Fan. Fan, what is your relationship to Mr. Scrooge?
He's my big brother.
Next slide, please. Fan, do you recognize recognize this place?
It's where Ebenezer went to school.
In how many years did your brother attend this school?
12.
Next slide. Fan, could you please tell us who this solitary child is?
It's Ebenezer.
And why is he neglected by his family and friends at Christmas?
He was never neglected.
But don't you agree that this picture shows him to be all alone in the schoolhouse when all the other boys have gone home for the holidays?
Yes.
Why is he all alone at Christmas?
Father wouldn't permit him to come home.
How many Christmases was Ebenezer not permitted to come home?
11.
And he attended this school for 12 years?
Yes.
11 out of 12 Christmases, he wasn't permitted to come home. Seems to me he was neglected most of his childhood.
Never in my heart.
Why didn't your father permit him to come home?
When Mother died, Father became awful to live with, always angry and unreasonable. He sent Ebenezer away to school, and he would have sent me as well, I'm sure. But Father needed someone to do the cooking and the cleaning.
Did you ever ask your father if Ebenezer could come home?
Every Christmas, and each time he would yell and say no.
What happened that 12th year?
Father said yes.
Why did your father finally say yes?
I'd never known. He yelled at me that night, but then came into my room the next morning, and he spoke so gently. He kissed me on the forehead and said they had done it all in one night. He put me on a coach immediately to bring Ebenezer home.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Scrooge, your witness.
Fan, my sister, my dear little sister, you had a large heart. No questions.
You may step down.
Your Honor, I'd like to call to the stand Mrs. Belinda Worthington.
Mrs. Belinda Worthington.
Would you please state your full name for the court?
Belinda Campbell Worthington. My friends call me Belle.
Belle, what is your relationship to Mr. Scrooge?
I was engaged to him once.
And how long were you and Mr. Scrooge engaged?
Our contract to marry was an old one.
Would it be safe to say several years?
Yes.
But you never married.
I never married Mr. Scrooge, no.
Why didn't you and Mr. Scrooge get married?
Another idol displaced me.
Another woman?
A golden idol. Money.
Did Mr. Scrooge always have a love for money?
When we were engaged, we were both poor and content to be so. But I watched his nobler aspirations fall off one by one, until his passion for me ceased to exist, and the master passion, gain, engrossed him.
And how did that make you feel?
Unloved, fraught with misery.
And how did it end between the two of you?
Knowing I was no longer loved, I released him from our promise to marry.
And what was Mr. Scrooge's reaction?
Indifference, relief,
And how did that make you feel?
broken-hearted. I loved Ebenezer once.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Scrooge, your witness.
Mrs. Worthington? When did that happen?
A few years after.
After you released me.
Yes.
And did I ask for release?
In words? No.
In what then?
If we had not had a contract to marry, would you have sought me out and tried to win me?
Miss Campbell!
Mrs. Worthington.
Please answer the question. If I did not ask for release in words, in what way did I ask for release?
Can I believe you would have chosen a girl without a dowry?
As I recall, I did choose a girl without a dowry.
Yes, you did, but you changed.
How so?
You began to weigh everything by gain.
I grew wiser, yes, but I never changed towards you.
When you asked for my hand, you were another man.
Oh, I was a boy.
Yes, you were a boy, but you changed. And if for a moment you were false to your one guiding principle, did I know that repentance and regret would surely follow?
You made an assumption.
Objection!
No, I did not.
Badgering the witness.
Overruled.
Miss Campbell,
My name is Mrs. Worthington.
I was a boy.
Your own feelings tell you that you are not what you
But
are.
then what am I?
A lonely old man, intent on nothing but the pursuit of wealth.
This is the even-handed dealings of the world. There's nothing that is as hard as poverty, and nothing that professes to condemn with such severity than the pursuit of wealth.
Objection, Your Honor. Kitchen controllers.
You fear the world too much.
Run my courtroom.
I was looking out for your future well-being.
My well-being meant little, to you very little. I was merely an unprofitable dream.
You were not an unprofitable dream. You were going to be my wife. I didn't ask for release. You made an assumption and walked out on me.
Then why didn't you stop me? If I meant so much to you, why did you let me walk away?
I don't know.
All these years and you still don't know? You let me walk away because my heart wouldn't bring you monetary gain.
Oh, no, that's not the reason, Bo.
You didn't love me anymore.
I did love you, Bo. I still do.
Why didn't you say that then?
I was a fool. I don't know. I didn't. No! No! No more questions.
Mr. Scrooge, in my chambers immediately. 15-minute recess.
Let's go soon and find a scrap to eat.
Yes, indeed. Let's do that.
You can come
she's much better off without him.
She found herself a wonderful husband.
Scrooge may never find someone as sweet as she. I think that poor man is destined to be alone for the rest of his days.
Especially if he continues on the path he is currently on. It doesn't seem like anyone is on his side.
He has a lot of money. He can buy his friends.
Well, I hope he loses his child and learns his lesson.
Me too. It'd be a big surprise if he wins.
I know, but I don't think that's gonna happen. His case is weak at best.
Let's get on with it. At least it's warm in the courtroom.
Actually, it's getting pretty hot in there, if you ask me.
All rise. There we go. The Honorable stands for your Lord.
Be seated. Court is now in session. I trust that there will be no more outbursts, and we may continue this trial in an orderly fashion. Mr. Rothschild, it is your witness.
I would like to call to the witness stand the ghost of Christmas present.
The ghost of Christmas present. Will the ghost of Christmas present please come forward?
I just saw him outside.
Mr. Connolly, find him. Would you like to call another witness?
No, I'll wait, because I have a little dreidel. I made it out of play, and when it's dry and ready, oh dreidel we will play. Oh dreidel, 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 I made it out of play.
I'd like to call a witness.
Mr. Scrooge, you may dance.
That's fine, Your Honor.
Fine.
I'd like to call back to the stand Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Mr. Fitzpatrick, on the night in question, when I was in the clutches of the ghost...
Objection.
Sustained.
When I was with the ghost of Christmas present, where were you?
In my home,
And what were you doing?
hosting a Christmas party.
The Christmas party to which I've been invited.
Yes.
And who was at this party?
Friends, family, my wife's family.
And what do these people do for a living?
They're mostly businessmen.
Successful businessmen?
Yes, I'd say so.
I found him. Wait a minute.
Your Honor.
Mr. Connolly. Mr. Scrooge may continue.
Did you play any games at this party?
Yes.
Did you play yes and no?
Yes.
Yes and no. I did.
You shush! Did you choose the subject?
Yes.
Was it a person?
Yes.
Are you certain?
Yes.
And on the night in question, did anyone ask if it was a person?
Yes.
And what was your answer?
No.
Even though you knew the correct answer to be yes.
Yes.
And did anyone ask if it was an animal?
Yes.
And what was your answer?
Yes.
Even though you knew that to be incorrect as well.
Yes.
And did you continue these lies throughout the game?
Objection.
Did you continue to lie?
Objection. This is a child's game. I don't see how this is.
Sit down, Mr. Rothschild.
Did you continue to lie?
This has nothing to do with
This
it.
has everything to do with it. For the benefit of Mr. Rothschild, the question that night seared in my memory. Is it alive?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzpatrick, please give the answer you gave that night. Is it alive?
Barely.
Ah. Is it tame?
No.
A wild beast?
Yes.
Is it growl?
Yes.
Does it roar?
Yes.
Is it a tiger?
No.
Is it a bear?
No.
Is it a pig?
Sorry, pigs don't roar. Mr. Connolly!
Oh, right. Sorry. Is it in London?
Yes.
In a zoo?
No.
In a cage, surely.
No.
Does it roam roam the streets.
Yes.
Is it old?
Yes.
Is it ugly?
Yes.
Is it rich?
Yes.
I know what it is! I know what it is! It's Mr. Scrooge! What? It is, isn't it?
Is that the correct answer? An old, ugly, wild beast.
Yes.
To you, perhaps, but to me it is my name, my reputation. Who of those people at your party would ever do business with me? Who would ever lend out a hand in kindness? None. As long as you continue to slander my good name and perpetuate the false image of me as an old, ugly, wild beast. No more questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Rothschild, your witness.
Fred, did you play any other games that night?
Yes. How, when, where, coached it over. Blind man's buff.
Blind man's buff. Is it buff or is it bluff?
Buff.
I always thought it was bluff.
Most people do, but it's buff.
You're sure?
Positive. You can look it up if you like.
No, I trust you. Now, how do you play blind man's buff?
Well, someone is blindfolded, then spun around a few times with a disorder, and then they have to catch some.
Is it fun?
It's a great deal of fun, yes.
Okay, Fred, let me ask you this, and I need you to answer truthfully. When you played blind man's buff, was it merely for fun? Or, as the name suggests, were you making fun of the blind?
My God, no. It was merely good fun.
Was it?
Yes.
You and your friends were sitting around laughing at the expense of the blind man?
How could you think so?
Taking delight in the blind man stumbling about in the buff, bumping into furniture, tripping over rocks.
No, never.
Oh, look, the naked blind man can't see. How funny.
What are you saying?
Well, how will the blind ever get ahead in this world if people like you perpetuate the image of the blind man as a clumsy and inept jester?
I didn't.
There are heavy penalties, Fred, for that kind of behavior.
But
fines,
we weren't.
prison time.
Why are you?
Maybe you should just got no you're
Ah! This is preposterous. I was there that night. It was a game, a child's game. No one was ridiculing anyone or perpetuating an image. It was all good fun.
Precisely. And he wasn't ridiculing Mr. Scrooge or perpetuating a false image of him when they played yes and no. That, too, was all in good fun. No more questions, Your Honor.
You may step down, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Mr. Rothschild, your witness.
I would like to call to the stand the ghost of Christmas present.
The ghost of Christmas present.
Not living up to his name, is he?
Mr. Connolly, where is he?
I tried to tell you. He said he doesn't have time for this trial.
Doesn't have time.
He said his life upon this globe is very brief and he has other business to attend to.
Tell him to come into this courtroom because his business is within these four walls and nowhere else.
I did, but he refuses to come in.
What is he doing that is so important?
He's sprinkling powder in people's food.
What?
You're not looking.
There's something peculiar in that powder.
Mr. Connolly, go outside and force him into this courtroom this instant.
I don't want to mess with him. I've never seen the likes of him before.
Mr. Connolly!
He says he has more than 1,800 brothers.
Mr. Connolly!
I don't like them odds.
Mr. Connolly! He is sprinkling an unknown substance into people's food.
And he's harboring two children under his robe.
He's what?
Two children! They live under his robe.
Notify Scotland Yard!
They're dirty and dressed in rags and they haven't bathed in God knows how long.
They're his children.
He told me that mankind,
He takes care of them.
Forcing them to live under his robe is not taking care of them. Mr. Connolly, now!
beware of them both, but most of all beware of the boy, for he has doom written on his brow.
He really is good to them, Your Honor.
That will be for the courts to decide. Mr. Rothschild.
I would like to recall to the stand Mr. Robert Cratchit.
Mr. Robert Cratchit.
work at Scrooge and Marley's 10 years ago, what was your salary?
15 shillings a week.
And you were able to live on that?
We may do.
By we, who do you mean?
My family.
At the time, how big was your family?
It was my wife, myself, and 2 children.
A family of 4 on 15 shillings?
Yes, sir.
On the night in question, how big was your family?
It was my wife, myself, and 6 children.
Oh, you've been busy. And how much were you making then at Scrooge and Marley's?
15 shillings a week.
You worked at Scrooge and Marley's for 10 years and never once received a raise.
That's correct.
Did you ever receive a Christmas bonus?
No.
After Mr. Marley's death, did Mr. Scrooge talk to you about becoming a partner?
I asked him about that once, and he said it would cost too much to change the sign.
The sign?
Scrooge and Marley.
Oh, that's right, he never painted out Marley's name.
No, sir. It still says Scrooge and Marley.
Doesn't that confuse people?
Well, sometimes people new to the business call him Mr. Scrooge, and sometimes Mr. Marley, but he answers for both.
So you were supporting a wife and 6 children on 15 shillings a week with no hope of a raise or ever becoming partner.
That's correct.
How were you able to do that?
It was not easy.
Seems to me it's nearly impossible.
Objection.
Overruled.
What are you getting?
Overruled. Did you find
Yes,
Good.
but Your Honor.
You may continue, Mr. Rothschild.
Bob, I want to talk about your youngest child.
Tim.
Yes, you have a nickname for him, don't you?
Tiny.
I'm assuming because he's tiny.
Sharp as a tennis ball, that one.
Mr. Scrooge.
Yes, he's small for his age.
Any particular reason?
Well, he was born prematurely and remained ill.
Bob, on the night in question, how ill was Tiny Tim?
Quite ill.
Was he dying?
Yes, sir.
Did he know it?
I think so.
Did it scare him?
He never talked about it, but he did say to me once that he hoped people saw him in church because he's a cripple, and it would be pleasant for them to be reminded of how lame beggars walk and blind men see.
Tim was crippled.
He had grown so weak he was forced to use a crutch to walk.
Did you seek medical help?
He couldn't afford it.
So you chose to
Wait and pray.
wait and pray. Your Honor, I'd like to submit Exhibit B, Tiny Tim's crutch. Your Honor, on the night in question, if Tiny Tim's life continued on the path it was on, this is all that would have remained of him. The only thing sadder than a young boy forced to use a crutch is a crutch without an owner. It isn't pretty. But this is what a world without pity can do. Thank you. Bob, on your first day back to work after the night in question, did you notice a change in Mr. Scrooge?
Yes, sir. He was a completely new man. Happy and kind.
And how did that kindness manifest itself?
We burned more coal that day than we had all year. He gave me a substantial raise and he offered to help Tiny Tim.
Helped him how?
Get him to pay for his medical treatments and get him the best care. For a while, he was a second father to Tim.
And how is Tim today?
Good as gold. And better. He didn't die and no longer needs a crutch to walk.
Bob, would you say that the change in Mr. Scrooge saved Tim's life?
Yes, I would.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Scrooge, your witness.
Mr. Cratchit, before the night in question, have you ever been to a debtor's prison?
No, sir.
Have you ever been arrested for not paying your bills?
No, sir.
Have you ever been forced to sleep on the street?
No, sir.
Have you ever been unable to put food on your table?
No, sir, but
Well, what do you do during the day, Mr. Cratchit?
during the day I work for you.
And at night?
I spend nights at home with my family.
According to Miss Wainwright, who has had extensive experience with the poor, there are thousands in want of common necessaries and hundreds of thousands in want of common comforts. If before the night in question, did you consider yourself to be one of those thousands?
No, sir.
No, neither did I. You had a job, you had a house, you'd never been to a debtor's prison, and you've always been able to put food on your table.
Yes, but I had 6 children. It was scarcely enough.
Perhaps you should have thought of that before you had them. No more questions, Your Honor.
You may step down, Mr. Cratchit. Mr. Rothschild, your witness.
I would like to call to the stand the ghost of Christmas present.
The ghost of Christmas present.
He got away.
Got away how?
I don't know. One minute he was yelling at people to touch his robe, and the next, he was gone.
Where did he go?
He just vanished into thin air.
Mr. Carly, ghosts don't just vanish into thin air. Well, it's Scotland Yard's problem now. Mr. Rothschild.
I would like to call to the stand the ghost of Christmas yet to come.
The ghost of Christmas yet to come.
I'll go find him.
I'll please.
I'd like to call...
Fine.
I'd like to call to the stand Mrs. Harriet Dilber.
Mrs. Harriet Dilber.
Please tell the court your full name.
Harriet Penelope Dilber.
And on the night in question, where were you?
About
Specifically.
visual time.
Did you enter my room that night?
Don't flatter yourself.
Mrs. Dilber, did you or did you not enter my bedroom with the intent of pilfering my goods?
What kind of lady do you think I am?
The pilfering kind.
I'll have you know I haven't pilfered anything in years. My pilfering days are far behind me, sad to say.
Old Joe thinks differently.
Old Joe's got a big mouth, he does.
Oh, so then you do admit you did do a little pilfering that night.
Maybe just a pretty pilfer.
What exactly did you pilfer?
It's getting a bit personal now, ain't it? I mean, it's not very ladylike to talk about pilfering in public, don't you think?
Mrs. Dilber. Do you know what the word pilfer means?
If you don't know what it means by now, I ain't gonna tell you. Wait, what's it mean again?
To steal.
God, really? You mean it's not? Oh, yeah. I went into your place and pilfered everything I could get my hands on.
And what did you pilfer?
Oh, I can't quite remember. My memory ain't what it used to be.
Well, let's see if we can help you with that. According to old Joe's deposition, he wrote, here it is. She came into my shop singing, Old Scratch had finally died. She opened up her bundle and out fell his gloves, leather boots, blankets, bed curtains, rings, and all. And a shirt, fine cotton it was.
They were gonna ruin a perfectly good shirt.
Ruin?
They were gonna bury you in it.
You took that shirt off of my body?
Of course, it was a fine cotton shirt. I couldn't see it go to waste, so I took it right off you and dressed you in calico. That's enough for your old bones.
No more questions.
Mr. Rothschild, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Oh. Mrs. Dilber, may I call you?
Call me anything you like, Lord.
Thank you. Harriet?
How about calling me you?
Harriet, I
a gentleman, isn't he?
Harriet, where do you live?
Oh, you're a fast one, aren't you?
Where do you sleep at night?
Wouldn't you like that?
Yes, I would.
Oh, you're pilfering me all.
Harriet, do you know Sarah Wainwright?
Maybe.
How long have you known her?
Few years.
How did you two meet?
At a party.
Was it snowing that night? That was you standing in the street, wasn't it? How's your family?
The cold took them
When?
a few days after the party.
And where do you live now?
Wherever.
How often do you see Sarah Wainwright?
Every Christmas. And I look forward to it every year. She's like family. Only family I got.
Why did you steal Mr. Scrooge's belongings?
You know a better way?
Yes, it's called a job.
You gonna hire me?
No more questions, Your Honor.
You may step down, Miss Dilber.
Hey, Mom, that's my bag.
So, who'd like to call another witness now?
Oh, me? I would like to call to the stand the ghost of Christmas yet to come.
The ghost of Christmas yet to come.
Since the ghost of Christmas yet to come does not possess a normal voice box, we've engaged a court-appointed translator who speaks ghost. Would you please state your full name for the court?
The ghost of Christmas yet to come.
The ghost of Christmas yet to come. May I call you Future?
Please.
Future, on the night in question, did you visit Mr. Scrooge?
Yes.
And what was the purpose of your visit?
Redemption.
He tried to kill me.
Sit down, Mr. Scrooge.
Ask me, ask
Mr. Scrooge.
Did you try to kill Mr. Scrooge?
No.
Liar!
Could he not shout like that? It hurts my ears.
Murderer!
Why is he doing this to me?
Because you tried to kill me.
I've never killed anyone in my life.
He's lying.
I'd like to kill him right now.
You're not the only one. Sit down, Mr. Scrooge.
Mr. Scrooge says you tried to kill him.
Mr. Scrooge can kiss my spectral cookies.
Why would Mr. Scrooge say a thing like that?
Because he's a fox.
Objection! Overruled.
But he can't
The
talk.
witness is entitled to his opinion.
Oh, that wasn't his opinion. That was mine.
Future, when you were with Mr. Scrooge that night, was he ever in danger of dying?
The only one in danger of dying that night was me. I nearly froze my arms off that night. Look at this. I've seen toilet paper thicker than this. This wouldn't keep a pig on a spit wool. You'd think they'd spring for something with a little more insulation. But no, his Christmas present has enough fat on him to keep a tribe of Eskimos wool for a lifetime. And they give him a wool suit.
As best you can remember, what happened on the night in question?
Oh,
I'm freezing now, as a matter of fact. Could someone put some more coat on me?
Mr. Connolly, it's warm enough in here.
but Your Honor.
You may proceed, Mr. Rothschild.
Oh, my client!
Your client should have dressed for the weather. Oh, it's not.
Future, on the night in question, did you kidnap Mr. Scrooge?
No.
Did you force him to go with you?
I didn't force him. He went on his own.
And where did you take him?
You see, his future.
Mr. Scrooge's future if he didn't change his ways, is that correct?
Yes.
And what was his future like?
Cool. Overcast. Hello. Welcome to England. The sun never sets here by far. The sun never rises. I hate England. It's cold and it's damp.
Besides the weather, what was his future like?
It was pretty bad.
How bad?
Well, he was dead to begin with.
How far into the future did you take him?
About 4 days.
That's hardly the future.
Well, he didn't have much of a future left.
Are you saying that on the night in question, if Mr. Scrooge didn't make a change of his life, he only had 4 days left to live?
It would take a few hours.
And did your visit have any effect on Mr. Scrooge?
He cried like a baby and promised to keep Christmas in his heart all the year.
He did?
Loved and mowed his head off.
He promised to keep Christmas in his heart all the year?
A promise made on his knees.
I see. Thank you. No more questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Scrooge, your witness.
Earlier, Mr. Marley expressed his frustration with scheduling an appointment. A 7-year wait. That's quite a workload. When do you get a day off?
Oh, well, off from Christmas Day to Christmas Eve.
You only work 1 day out of the year?
Bing, bang, bing, bang, bing, 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 bing. 1 night, actually. But it's a busy night. No rest.
1 night out of the entire year? No wonder there's a 7-year wait. Have you ever considered working a few more hours?
With a ghost of Christmas
not. Why did you take me there?
Is it hot in here?
Answer the question.
I'm very hot. Could you open a window, please?
Answer the question.
I'm thirsty too. I'm hot and I'm thirsty. Great, I've got leprosy.
You don't want to admit that you tried to kill me.
Again with the killing. What is it with you?
You took me to my room and tried to induce me into having a heart attack by showing me this, my dead body. Did you not show me this on the night in question?
I did, but it wasn't.
Did you continue to point at it, trying to get me to pull back the sheet?
Yes, but it wasn't.
Forcing me to look upon my dead body, thereby frightening me into having a heart attack.
No!
Liar!
Objection! My client is not lying.
And why show me this? Why show me this if I was past all hope? I'll tell you why. Because the spirit of Christmas is a cold-hearted murderer.
No!
Murderer!
I didn't.
Liar!
It wasn't me.
There was no one else in the room that night. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to finish now what you did not finish a year ago. No, I won't do it. I won't do it.
Mr. Scrooge, pull back the sheet.
What are you saying?
I'm saying pull back the sheet. You may not, but I do. And Mr. Conway. Now. Mr. Marley, what is the meaning of this? Mr. Marley!
Does anybody have any smelling salts?
Forget about that. Where's Mr. Scrooge's dead body?
Just look at the sheet!
Did you see it under the sheet?
No, I just
Oh,
thought.
Mr. Connolly, what do I pay you for?
Well, I sweep the floor, I clean the bathroom.
Mr. Marley!
That's a hard question, wasn't it?
Mr. Marley, where's Mr. Scrooge's dead body? Arrest him.
But Your Honor.
Now.
I mean, Your Honor, my client.
Your client has stolen evidence.
I'm sure there's a logical explanation.
I'd like to hear it.
Well, of course, Your Honor. Jacob, it's Mr. Scrooge's dead body. Jacob, I'm a future. Where? Oh. Past. The ghost of Christmas past. You haven't seen Mr. Scrooge's dead body lying around anyway, have you? No? Your Honor, I'd like to request a brief recess.
Not until your clients tell us what they've done with Mr. Scrooge's dead body.
But Your Honor, my clients may not have...
Mr. Marley is laying under the sheet where Mr. Scrooge's dead body should have been.
But he testified getting no sleep and no rest. Perhaps he just needed a quick cat nap.
Your clients don't tell us what happened this instant. I'm going to throw all of you in jail. Now, for the last time, where is Mr. Scrooge's dead body?
There is no dead body.
What?
There never was a dead body.
But I saw my dead body.
It wasn't your dead body.
That wasn't my dead body. And then what was under the sheet that night? Jacob?
Bound and double iron!
Don't you touch him!
Treasonous worm!
Order!
Spineless, lily-aching cur!
Mr. Marley, order! meaning of this?
He forced us to do it.
I didn't force.
Liar!
I said
Force!
our best child.
Forced!
Order!
Forced you to do what?
He forced us to break the rules.
Rules? What rules?
When we show someone their future, we're not allowed to use a dead body.
You're not allowed to use a dead body.
No, tombstones, yes, dead bodies, no. But Mr. Marley didn't think a tombstone would be enough to scare Mr. Scrooge into changing his ways. So he forced us to use a dead body.
I didn't.
Forced!
Falsity false.
That was you in my bed? Did you fabricate anything else that night?
Technically, your entire future.
That wasn't my future.
It was an approximation.
You approximated my future?
We approximate everyone's future.
What?
We speculate. That's where the word spectre comes from.
So on the night in question, you intentionally deceived and frightened me into changing my ways with a fabricated future and a counterfeit corpse?
It was for your own good.
Mr. Marley, you and the spirits of Christmas are nothing more than smooth-talking, double-dealing, self-righteous charlatans who terrorize people in the name of redemption.
Sit down, Mr. Scrooge.
Your Honor.
You too, Mr. Rothschild.
But, Your Honor.
Not another word.
Throw them all in jail.
Not another word. Now sit down, all of you. Not you.
Sorry.
In all my years, I have never witnessed a more reprehensible assemblage than I have today. You have collectively made a mockery of my courtroom with your abhorrent and impertinent behavior. If I could work my will, every last one of you would be boiled in your own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through your heart.
Surely you don't mean that.
And you'd be the first. And don't call me Shirley. There will be no closing arguments. I have heard more than enough to pass judgment. Although Mr. Scrooge failed to provide overwhelming evidence that anyone, living or deceased, attempted to kidnap or murder him, he did provide, in a rather uncustomary way, evidence of trespassing, breaking and entering, stalking, pain and suffering, and the intentional infliction of emotional distress. Furthermore, I find there is overwhelming evidence, including his own admission, that Mr. Marley carefully plotted, contrived, and conspired the events of the evening in question. Without his contrivance, none of these events would have occurred. Therefore, I find Mr. Marley and the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future guilty of said charges and condemn them to pay a fine of £1,000 apiece in termination of all ghostly duties.
I won?
Yes.
I won. I won. I won. Oh, I won. I don't know what to do. Oh, I was lighting up. I was happy as an angel. Oh, I was merry as a schoolboy. Oh, I was giddy as a goose.
Take your giddiness elsewhere. This trial is
Your Honor, termination?
effective immediately.
But you can't terminate my clients from their spiritual obligations.
I just did, didn't I?
But they'll cease to exist. It's a death sentence.
Well, it won't be much of a change for them now, will it?
Your Honor, please reconsider. They'll do community time. They'll take double the fine, triple, anything, but not termination.
That's enough, Mr. Rothschild. This trial is...
So Mr. Scrooge made a promise, a verbal agreement.
Yes, Mr. Rothschild, I made a promise. A promise I made on my knees to honor the spirit of Christmas and keep that spirit alive all the year.
And you have broken that verbal agreement.
On the contrary, I haven't shut out the lessons of the three spirits. The spirits of all three have thrived within me.
Oh, I beg to differ.
Bob Cratchit is the highest paid clerk in all of London, I dare say. And thanks to me, young Tiny Tim will live to be old, enormous Tim. I've given money to the poor, I've patted children on the head, and I've been irresistibly, what is it?
Mazel tov. The lessons of the spirits worked.
And why should I keep the spirit of Christmas alive like all year? Or at all, for that matter, when the ones who forced me to do so fail to do it themselves?
But they don't fail to keep it.
By their own admission, the spirits of Christmas appear only once a year.
Yes, because Christmas only comes once a year.
That's a poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December.
If you think charity and mercy and benevolence is picking your pocket.
You forget, Mr. Rothschild, you lost this trial.
Mr. Scrooge, I beg you, a world without the spirits of Christmas
It's
is...
January to November. What's one more month?
Your Honor, please.
It's not my business. This trial is...
Wait!
What?
Why?
I'll tell you what I'll do, Mr. Rothschild. I'll make you an offer. I will agree to drop all the charges if your clients agree to work more than one day a year.
Are you serious?
I'm quite serious.
Thank you, Your Honor, thank you. My clients will be more than willing to double their...
No. 2 days won't do.
How many days will do?
I don't know. Shall we say, every day?
Every day?
Yes!
Mr. Scrooge, please be reasonable.
I am being reasonable.
But you're demanding of my clients.
I'm demanding of your clients exactly what they demanded of me.
But Mr. Scrooge...
Every day, Mr. Rothschild, or your clients will cease to exist.
Well, I will need several days to discuss this with my clients.
They're all right here.
But Christmas present is a present.
Now, Mr. Rothschild, or I will rescind my offer.
Ha!
No, it's too late. I've already made my decision. This court is...
Wait!
Mr. Scrooge, it's a bargain.
They agree to my terms.
They do.
Spirits of Christmas will thrive every day.
They will.
Effective immediately.
Effective immediately, and all charges are dropped?
All charges are dropped.
Thank you.
But I get to keep all the money they owe me.
But you said all charges.
All charges, yes, but not the money.
Mr. Scrooge, this is not a game. I don't know.
So I could start a fund for the poor.
Aww.
I think Miss Wainwright would be my first choice to administer it. And Mrs. Harriet Dilbo would make a wonderful overpaid clerk, don't you agree?
I do well, Mr. Scrooge.
Quite well, I assure you. You see, Mr. Rothschild, your clients weren't the only ones that had to go through extraordinary measures.
What?
Extraordinary measures. Oh, you all should have seen the looks on your faces. You all thought I was the man I was before I was the man I was before. But you all had to believe that I was the man I was before I was the man I was before. Or nothing wonderful would have come of this trial. But I'm really not the man I was before I was the man I was before. Oh, Merry Christmas. The merriest Christmas we've had in many and many a year.
You mean this whole trial?
Extraordinary measures.
Mr. Scrooge, I don't know what to say.
Don't say anything then.
You really are as good a friend and as good a man as the good old world has ever known.
A promise is a promise. Right, Jacob? And Mr. Rothschild, may I call you Solomon?
I'd be honored.
Solomon, let it truly be said that we all knew how to keep the spirit of the spirit of caring and generosity alive all the year.
God bless us, everyone.
Hey, that's my line. God bless us, everyone.
Remarkable boy, an intelligent boy. And now I'd like to invite you all to my house for a wonderful party, wonderful gifts, and wonderful happiness.
Hooray!
You're always a good man of business, Ebenezer.
Mankind is my business, Jacob. You taught me that. Sometimes it just needs a swift kick in the pants. Right, Your Honor?
I'll retire as a bit. Suppose you'll want the whole day tomorrow.
If convenient.
It's not convenient. We have business to attend to. The day after next, we begin Twist versus Bumble. But I suppose you must have the whole day. Be here all the earlier next.
Thank you, sir.
And Merry Christmas! Measures. It's a waste of my time. Bastard.